Join me in the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call the budget workshop to hearing, or budget workshop open. Any additional agenda items? We need approval of the agenda. Last topic, the city manager, budget workshop topic, discuss city manager and city clerk.
I don't have too much. Just going to kick everything off today. Thanks to Merlin and Shelly at the library for coming today. Jason won't be here. He had a last-minute doctor's appointment, so I'll do the best I can to present his, but he's tried to bring me up to speed. And then Cody will be here with the water distribution department, and then Megan will finish us off today. So other than that, one update, we did get the grant reimbursement back for the airport, correct, Megan? So we'll work with the auditors to backdate that and hopefully clean that up from last year a little bit. So other than that, hoping to make some good accomplishments today and hopefully have a good discussion on the 18th of the revenue neutral rate and everything else, and probably we'll know a little bit more then of as far as what we might need to cut, and hopefully staff can present, scenarios for a few different things and allow the commission to kind of make a decision, because I'm sure there will be some tough decisions that have to be made, but keep everything on the radar and see what we can accomplish in the next few years. So, Megan?
I'm okay.
With that being said, we'll start with the library today.
I think you all saw our budget, and if you have any questions, you can let me know. We'll ask you for the 7 meal like we always do. Which is coming. Oh, sorry.
We're live streaming.
Okay.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll ask for the 7 meal like we always do, and that would come up to $80,082. And but I mean, when you figure out our budget, it would be $85,000. So we hope we can come up with another $5,000. Different things, different people donating and everything. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know.
At a minimum. And you guys think that your savings accounts and whatnot is going to be able to cover that extra $5?
Yeah, yes, for right now. I mean, because like, NCK, North Central Kansas Library Systems, has been the last couple of years has been giving us some money for capital grant, and so that helps some. But I don't know how long that's going to keep going every year, so that does cover some of that $5,000, and we use that however we see need to, and so we're hoping we can keep getting that next year too. So.
Okay.
And yes, our savings so far has been able to help us make up the difference.
I just want to make sure you guys, we don't shortchange you if you guys can't come up with.
Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions for John?
This is one of those that we have to give them at least 7, and then we can go from there. But
Okay.
Thank you, Sally.
Thanks.
thank you.
And it says airport budget review. All right.
All I can ask is what questions you got.
Well, like every other department, does this include the 5% cost of living increase for a full-time employee?
There's no full-time employees. I do not exactly know, but every budget that we've had, the city manager has always had full-time employees listed on the budget sheet. and has never taken that off. I don't know if they use that for a cushion or what, but all there is two of us as part-time employees.
Does any city manager salary come out of the airport fund?
No.
So we're not sure what that 15,000 is.
What's the total salaries for the airport? Do you know? Typically, is it 31 or somewhere around there?
It looks like we only charged to part-time, and last year it was 10,260.
Looks like Merlin's asking for 15. Couldn't,
I wouldn't want to speak for a previous city manager, but maybe they layered that in case we lost a part-timer and had to hire someone full-time, like halfway through the year or something, I don't know.
I've never been given an explanation for it. A couple times that I've turned the thing in, it comes back on, so that's about all I can answer as far as.
Do we think the total salaries are 31,000 between the two part-time?
Part-time salary is 10,000, right?
Okay, but the requested for next year is 31 total between part-time and full-time, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't think that's the request. I don't imagine we'll use that.
Well, if they don't have any full-time employees, there shouldn't be a $16,000 outlay on that line item.
right. That's what I'm getting at. I'm thinking about just scratching it. If we're not using it, there's no
It
reason
shouldn't even
to.
be there.
That's fine with me. Like I said, I was just guessing on why it might have been there, but.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Merlin, the only other question I had going through this is we have a substantial reserve in the airport fund, right? Is there any way we can maybe look at next year doing a project to overlay more in front of the other hangars and?
One of the problems that we have right now is our aircraft count has dropped below 10.
Right.
You gotta have 10 for the federal grants. I sold an airplane that the fellow became ill and he did not re-register it with FAA. So that airplane shows as deregistered. Just recently I bought that airplane and the hangar back, but FAA is way behind on their paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
So it will come back on the registry. And another airplane that's out there that was purchased in Parsons, Kansas, has not been switched with FAA to show that it's on our airport.
Right.
And I've been trying for 3 months to get that switch to show. We actually got 11 aircraft on the field,
Mm-hmm.
but because of problems with getting this all switched with FAA, right now we're only showing 9 aircraft.
Would another building help get more
Yeah.
airplanes?
We were due that we could have got federal money to put up 6 hangars, which would have been well over $500,000 if we done it with a federal grant. Problem being, in my opinion, if we do that, FAA is going to say you need to get a certain amount of money out of each one of these hangars for rent, and I'm quite sure that, I mean, as much trouble as we have getting people here now is going to make it worse. If, let's say right now we're getting $100 a month for a hangar. If FAA says we have to get $250 a month, then hangars are going to set in.
So, and I understand that with the airport's fair market value, but fair market value at the Herington airport is different than others. So we can argue that a little bit. And what about putting up a building without a federal grant and just put it up our own?
And that is good consideration.
that every time you put a stamp on a federal grant, you gotta get an engineer and it doubles the price. We have enough funds in there and funds coming in, we can make a little project, maybe get an extra airplane or two, and try to increase the.
And I've been talking to a couple different people on trying to find a contractor that would be interested in putting the building up. Again, some of these want somebody else to design, and like I said, I've been looking into it, but not as hard as probably what I should.
Yours one of the easiest budgets because you have money coming in and budget has to come, and
Has
that's
to
all
be
that's
spent.
been out there.
It was-
So, we need to, while we can, while you've got energy, let's approve whatever you need. Let's get it going and try to get something done.
And that was also the reason I asked about overlay additional areas to kind of push that further and further. Because if the ground was more, not as chopped up and everything in front of those hangars, would that be another indication that we could potentially get additional aircraft?
We could resurface more area out there for hangars, probably. Again, federal money we wouldn't be able to get. State money we possibly could get. And what I had in here on some engineering and stuff, because we ran out of the number of aircraft we had to have for federal money, we get allotted so much money each year, federal money that sits in a pool, that Lochner was hoping that we could use it plus some state money and be able to put in some new lighting, but the cost of it has went high enough that as of right now there's not enough money there to do that. So there probably will not be anything done on the engineering end of it this year, or this, well, it could be for this coming year. Just don't know for real sure on that.
Right. But we've got
New lighting for the runway and new pappies and reels are probably the next big thing that really needs to be done besides a hangar. All that stuff is getting to be old enough that it's starting to give problems.
Are we set up for the water tanker yet?
It would be good to have a water line run out there for it. I mean, right now we can lay hose to where we have been filling the water tanker. It'd be nice to have a hydrant right out there.
So, we could probably get some state money for water tanker for the firefighter too. We could look into it.
We've been allowed to open up enough extra runway that we are using it for the water tanker. The only thing that we haven't got is a hydrant that's real close where just one person could operate it to fill.
Could, Cody, you guys get some numbers on getting a hydrant out there?
I priced it out. I wasn't able to do it until the end of this year. It was on my to do list. I was gonna run a line instead of hydrant.
I'm just going back.
You had a price, didn't you?
Yeah, it was around 10,000.
Yeah, I'm just going back to the $374,000 that we had budgeted this year that we have not yet spent. And if we add or we have a project for next year, we can roll that over into that project, and I'm all good for that. I know I also hear a lot of comments that the airport could use more groundwork, more solid runways or taxiways, more aircraft hangars. So that's just that's what I've heard. So
We've got probably one of the best runways in the state of Kansas. Asphalt is in extremely good shape. Another 2 or 3 years, we'll probably need to restripe and renumber the
Yeah.
runway. That would be done with state grant money. back taxiway, to the south is in excellent shape, all new lighting for it. We wouldn't gain much by having a back taxiway to the north, and we're looking at over $1.5 million to do that back taxiway, which will not gain us much of anything. We've had all the asphalt resurfaced from the runway into the pilot's lounge and that hangar, and we've had that resealed. It's all in excellent shape.
And all of that, Merlin, I have heard great things of. But it's the other hangars where the other aircraft are.
Robin's right, hangars is the big thing.
I think Eric's trying to say, we need to get some stuff done and going out.
It needs to look like we're doing something.
Yeah. So, 10,000 out there is doable right now. I mean,
No, it was gonna be done, I have some projects in town I wanna finish up before I do something like that.
so if you could get some prices on the hangars and even something to help the roads out would make things better and easier for you.
Well, the other one that you're talking about on roads, I thought that I had it lined up that when they done a chip and seal project, which they'll do this fall out there, that the county would possibly chip and seal that on down to U.S. Stone.
But
Since the
that's
time I
road,
started
that's not the
that,
other. That's not for the aircraft.
that gentleman quit and went to work for Wildcat over on the 177 project, so that has kind of got dropped temporarily. But that's something I'd like to really do too, is upgrade that road. All the dirt and dust and maintenance that it takes.
Megan, do you know roughly what generates, how much that land generates, or leases and stuff for the airport?
Not off the top of my head.
Anybody see any of that missing?
No,
Not
the
as
revenues won't be
income,
on there. I can pull it for you guys and send it out.
So we can start budgeting some projects, put a list,
Right.
checklist, what we need to do, get a project going, what you guys need, and start planning something out so we can, I think we can capitalize that.
I think we can do a little bit of everything as long as we're doing some kind of advancements out there. So
How do you put that in the budget when you're not sure of any of this stuff? You're talking about like going ahead right now and doing the hydrant project. Well, it's not in the budget.
well, there's $374,877 reserve for future period.
So I mean, there's no problem in doing that, I take it.
So there's certain protocols where you switch stuff around, if you can move money in the airport,
I mean, you can overspend in a line item for like a special project. I can create more line items for you if you want a line item that's, if you come up with 2 or 3 projects and you want to put a designated amount of money in that line item and track it that way, I can add you all the accounts that you want me to add you. I can add. So.
And Megan, with this $374,000, it's not in the requested budget for 2024. So how does that?
So once I put everything into the budget worksheet, comparing like what we had left over from last year versus what we're spending this year, then I put in our expenses and our projected revenues for next year, and it'll populate that reserve for future period
Okay, so
at the bottom.
so
So that's something that I will fill in once I get a little bit farther in the budget workbook.
So the 229 is just what Merlin's requesting, not including what's ever
Those are
left over.
just expenditures for this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he could have a capital improvement line.
He could definitely have a capital improvement line.
I think
And he might have one that is just not showing up because we hadn't budgeted to it. I skipped like 0 balance accounts on this, so he could very well have one.
I just want to see some more improvements, whether it's roads, it's infrastructure. We just need to continue moving forward and maybe hopefully use that as a recruitment tactic for additional aircraft and whatnot too. So.
And like I said, you can just get some line items you think you want to do out there, work with Betty, put it on the budget. You can go through
Right.
there and you can calculate whatever you want.
Let's not go too crazy.
We can always say wait.
And Maryland is about the most conservative one that we have
Probably
on
the tightest
staff,
department
so.
that we have.
I think the complaint that most people have had is I've always been too tight with it.
I think that's kind of what I'm getting at with some of those, with some of that ground in front of those hangars.
How many airplanes does the city of Herington own?
Back 20 years ago, when that belonged to the airport authority, they couldn't live with the money that they had. And, when I took it, I thought that I could, make it self-sufficient by fixing up a lot of things and, getting it where it maintained itself and so forth. And I guess I just have continued to be kind of tight with the funds.
Sometimes that's not bad. Dan had a question.
How many airplanes does the city of Herington own?
City don't own any.
Hey, why are you spending $30,000 on airplane fuel?
That's what we sell. We
You're-
make money
yeah.
off
City
of
purchases
that.
it, and then they have
And
to,
then we resell
and
it.
then
So
they
you guys
resell.
have the expense lines here, but you're not seeing like the revenue side of it, where we have the income from selling the fuel that we buy.
I just ordered about another $7,000 worth of fuel this morning.
So
We're
the people
being
that
used quite a little bit.
So the people things come in, crop dusters and stuff that buy fuel there, anybody that lands.
And try to make it somewhere between 20 and 25 cents a gallon
Off of it.
fuel.
So on this budget,
I'd like to see that work project to see what we're going at, but otherwise I'm good with it.
yeah. And the fortunate thing, any money that's made out there has to stay out there, which is what it is.
One thing I would, been trying to do for a long time, done clear back when Ed was here. I talked to Lochner at that time, and we talked about a digital sign that would possibly put up here on Broadway for advertisement of what was on at the airport, advertisement for things in town and so forth. And that sign being paid for out of the airport, but all revenue that came in off of sale of advertisement on that sign has to go back to the airport. We had it all lined up basically to purchase a sign when Ed decided to go with the UAV deal with this guy up here in Junction City, and it got dropped. I don't know if that's something that we still might want to look at. It is a little bit touchy with FAA, but like Lochner said, if we done that as advertisement that the airport made money off of, or was to make money off of, we could possibly do that, and that way we could use some airport money for something viable here in town. So that's something you might want to consider again.
So, you can put a wish list or whatever you want on it. I mean, seriously, you can. Put it, capital outlay, what you want done, what to do, you can track it. Yours is one of the easiest ones we got. So, we'd like to see projects out there. If I agree with what everybody's saying, because I think it's an asset to the community. I was gonna improve what we can.
Now, if we want to do projects starting yet this year that's not in this year's budget, what kind of problems do we have?
Depends if you have the money already available.
Okay.
I think that's where that depends.
I think that the way Randy and I had set up the budget is while we have this in a reserve for future period, we do have it as like a budget authority to be able to spend in case something were to come up. So it is in the line item for like a future period, but you would be able to spend some of it.
Okay.
So we might get some of those projects started this year too.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, lay some projects for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marlon.
And I think we might skip the sewer for now and let Cody go ahead with the water distribution.
Same questions. Did we already adjust for 5%
Yeah.
on the employees?
On salaries? And you did the 5?
Did 6. Didn't last year they do like 5% cost of living and like 1%?
Performance?
Yeah, that was last year. I
Yeah.
think every year, every department we've gone
We've gone kind of across
We're
the board with
looking at
5, but
about
I
Well,
can,
just didn't
yeah.
check, I didn't know, and that's kind of what I was kind of,
Yeah.
I ran with that and adjusted.
And I can adjust and double check all those too. It's part of what I
That's
do
what I
in
did.
there, so.
I wanna be the Scrooge of,
Hmm.
5%, it just being 6% last year, 5% this year. Economy sucks, things going up.
Cost of living continues to go up.
Right,
And we didn't give nearly what we should have if we wanted to stay on the average of cost of living last year.
You gotta find out what the total budget's gonna be. I can't give you.
I can almost guarantee you, we're not gonna be able to pay everybody a 5% increase. That ain't gonna happen.
We're just doing projections.
Right.
So everybody's projected.
And there's never a guarantee that they're gonna get a pay raise.
Yeah, we understand.
So if they're under that assumption, which a lot of them have been under that assumption, that they are going to get one, that may or may not happen.
I
And if
think
they
it-
do, it may not be a 5%.
I think it was pretty loud and clear last year that it was not across the board, that, the COLA adjustment was.
Yes.
But the actual salary increase was based on performance. And not everyone just got across the board, here's the money.
Right.
Or that's how it's been done in the past.
That was very loud and clear when we did last
Yeah.
year's budget.
I mean, it's nothing against the city employees, I mean, we can pay them millions, yeah, but we can't pay them like.
I understand that, but I would still, at least for the projections, until we're ready to go with the final cutbacks completely, we need to at least look and see what's going to be budgeted at.
I understand that, I just want,
Right.
so like everything, we're not guaranteed everything.
I don't think everybody thinks it's fair.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of under the assumption right now that this is a preliminary budget. We're asking for numbers, and we all, as department heads, understand if there's cuts places.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is my company.
No, you're fine.
You're good. You're good. How many vehicles do you guys have?
Oh, we have our main work truck, and then we have a dump truck. And then I think the meter truck might be split, meter reader truck.
The dump trucks we got now, they're old, I think.
They're getting there, and that was something not like in this budget, but like the next one, I'd look to replace. It's replaced one of the dump trucks.
You know, how old's your work truck?
It's a 2011.
Didn't you guys just get a brand new truck last year?
No, we did not.
That was the water department.
So the
What's
plant,
the difference? It's still part of the water department, is it not?
So, water,
Technically, the water and the sewer department are split map vehicle with, water. Yeah, but it's Cody can use that truck. They are technically separate departments. I mean, I consider water, sewer, distribution more of one department, but I don't believe that's the way.
so thinking of the water, is basically one of the five, which is distributed out. So, the light plant out is,
water.
or the
Water plant.
Our dump truck, I think, I believe, is the 2006. 2006 is our dump truck.
So if you look at the next page, their major equipment, they've got 15,000 requested and 10,000 requested.
And we split the dump truck between the street, I do believe, when they purchased that years ago. Like, water bought the truck and the street bought the bed, or vice versa.
which I don't like divvying up vehicles like that, but
It's a dump truck. It's not like a
It's-
daily
I
driver
mean,
truck.
it's used equally between pretty much, well, all
Yeah.
3 departments down there use that truck.
well, several years ago, that was a way to get past having to come to a commission to request to purchase a vehicle.
On your supplies, are you pretty well caught up, you get away from supplies, like meters and all that?
Meters they're kind of behind. The radio reads are real far behind. I've been on the list for quite a while now for both.
Kinda like all the rest of the
Yeah.
stuff.
Didn't we already approve a huge order of meters, or is that for electric?
That was the
Electric.
electric
Okay.
department.
I believe the electric department's pretty caught up on meters, I know we're a little further behind than the water department.
Yeah, and that's where I'd like to really push hard next year on getting some meters exchanged, since we're going to that radio read system. We have a lot of meters out there that's not capable of doing the radio reading, so they need to be swapped out with new meters.
How come you're going from $185 to $1,000 requested mileage?
We don't really travel with them. We're not going every
I think
places to use mileage.
I think any of you guys do. You guys can take a city vehicle,
Yeah,
so there's
pretty
not
much. I mean,
so there's not
hardly ever
really,
do we use a personal vehicle.
and we shouldn't be using personal
Shouldn't be
vehicles
using
at
a
all.
Personal vehicle
so.
for any city business.
Well, I think they said,
Sometimes when they go down to like Kansas Rural Water
Conference.
Conference, they might drive their personal vehicles down there for the weekend, so you don't have a work truck sitting out. So there's mileage to Wichita and back.
I have to go down and get ours for certification.
You
I mean, that's about the only
you
time
do.
I really noticed
But
any.
that's almost a tenfold increase from $185 to $1,000.
I'm not disagreeing that you have to go down and get certifications and trainings. I'm just saying you can take a city vehicle and you can take that from any
We can
department,
drop that down. I mean,
except for an emergency
that was
vehicle.
just there before.
I think they only used $185, but it was still budgeted for $1,000 last year.
Yeah, it was just there.
Right.
Yeah.
But it could be cut too. I mean, like I said, we hardly ever.
That's going to be the first place I recommend a cut from, and all the way down to zero, because we don't need mileage. We have city vehicles that can go out of town.
And it's sometimes it gets hard to get a vehicle to take. I mean, what do you take when you go to Salina? You can't take our work truck. We got thousands of dollars of tools in it. You know, with it, can't lock them all up.
There is a truck at the water distribution center from sewer distribution that can be shared in the event
Oh,
that it
they're
goes out
allowed
like
to
that.
share, yes, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, you're nitpicking over $1,000.
It's not going to make any change. Yeah.
So,
Cut it if you want.
in the long run,
I'm saying the same thing I've said on the other departments, that we don't need to be spending mileage, giving mileage to any employee, and because there's a city vehicle for those purposes.
My opinion, $185 is really insignificant in the grand scheme of the overall.
It's not,
Request.
because you guys are spending money
My
like crazy,
opinion, I think
and at some point, the spending has got to stop.
Dan, where do you think we're spending?
Well, down here, let's take for line item 703-330. We want $55,000 for supplies. What supplies?
Water line, valves, fire hydrants.
Well, then it needs to be stated as such. And you've got water lines on the next page that you want $100,000 for.
That is for a project they've been putting money back in for a few years to redo West Walnut.
Now, you can't just say supplies and, oh yeah, we'll give you $55,000 to spend on supplies when I don't know what those supplies are.
Well, it has to.
I just did.
Okay.
And watch your attitude, young man.
Hey, this is not necessary.
Yeah, some people haven't been over the budget yet, so they.
It doesn't make any difference.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
You don't have to break down every pencil, everything.
If I want to, yes, I will.
And ask the man correctly and move on. It's not personal. It's just, you can
It
have.
is personal to me because we're spending other people's money, and I have yet to hear anyone say, whoa, we need to start cutting back. It's always, we'll add this, we'll add this, we'll add this, we'll add this. No, we can't just add this, add this, add this.
So you'll be the one that will be cutting it here shortly. They're just putting the wish list to you, and you'll be the one that's sharpening the pencil. So any questions on these line items, it's supplies, and then copper water
Okay.
lines and stuff, it's,
What are the supplies?
And meters, you mentioned meters.
Meters are on the other
We have a
page.
budget, a line item for meters.
Cody, if you can kind of maybe detail the 55,000 you're asking for the supplies. What
And
are
I've been
those?
asking that of everybody.
I mean,
What are
that's-
your supplies?
Anytime we put water line in the ground, that's where it comes from, valves, hydrants, any water line part, services, I mean, all that comes out of supplies.
what's a fire hydrant cost?
$3,700. A stick-up pipe, is $11.96 a foot.
And there's
6 inch.
several,
That's what we put down every residential street.
and there are several fire hydrants that we also know are not adequate flow at the
I have
moment.
a list. And it's hard to exchange them when they're $3,700 a pop.
And Dan, I'm very conscious of cutting stuff, not spending taxpayer money. But, you know, we'll have that opportunity when they get all the numbers to us, and then we'll decide exactly where to spend it. So, I trust the city employees. I have a question on wants and needs sometimes.
I mean, the only reason I put 10% increase on supplies because cost of supplies have went up like crazy. I mean, they really have.
Yeah.
A few years ago, they were buying 6-inch pipe for like $6 a foot, and now we're up to double that. And I don't know if it's gonna come down.
It's not gonna.
Yeah,
It's
our
gonna keep
water
going up.
lines
I
are
just
very
bought
bad.
this and it was almost $4 to
Our-
buy a bloody soda.
Our water lines, we have a lot of water lines that need replaced. We have this lead and copper rule that's coming down the line, and it's gonna cost a lot of money to replace water line services.
Hey Cody, if I can interrupt you here a second.
You're fine.
703-260 chemicals, acetylene, and oxygen.
I think cut it.
We went down to 1,000.
Yeah, and then that's for like, when they refill the pork bottles and stuff,
Okay.
the shop and stuff like that.
Do you have, leased bottles?
Yes, I went through that. But I cut that down, 'cause, I mean, we hardly use it, or we didn't use, I don't know, we hardly ever use it.
Right. I mean, he's pretty much almost kept the same budget from last year. So he's not asking for a lot. It's now a matter of what does the commission want to see what the numbers would look like.
I mean, I did an increase, like I said, the supplies and meters, because I want to push hard on meters next year.
Going with that 100,000 in the water lines in 704-301, what's that project that we're saving that money for?
West Walnut from Broadway down to like Fifth Street.
Okay.
To have that contractors come in and do that. That's gonna be a big project going across the bridge and stuff down there. And I think Jason started, when he was in charge, started setting money back aside for that quite a few years ago. And it needs to be done. I mean, it's gonna be a project that needs to be done, and that way that they can go fix that road as well.
Is there anything that you deem that you might need that's not on here that you,
Just getting into this, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think we'll be set. I mean, I think we'll be all right. We really want to do some projects next year. I'd like to start laying more water main next year. We're gonna finish up A Street with the services done. We got a few blocks of water line from like C Street down to A Street on Chestnut. That's where I want to start putting water line in.
One thing Cody brought up, and I spoke with Leo and Marcus about department. Back to if we're going in and rehabilitating a road, it might be a good time to do a water line. Something to where you don't want to go out back in and have to rip something out 2 years down the road and you're looking at an old water line. So
And that was suggested several years ago to make sure that you have your ducks in order so that you're not tearing up a road for the water line or repairing a road and then tear it up. I mean, I think
And that's where on line items of the 240, we have concrete. We try to go back and fix all the curb and gutter that we tear out when we replace water lines and stuff like that. Makes it a little better on the street department when we go back to put road in.
Because the water department tears up the streets, the water
Pretty good.
water department might as well replace some of it.
We're pretty good at it.
and you don't know what areas you have the most leaks in or bad water lines now, or lack of volume,
There-
the hydrants and stuff. You're
Yeah.
upgrading 6 6 inch now versus 4.
4 inches, I mean, it's so bad nowadays, I mean, the old cast lines are down to nothing hardly on the insides of it. North Bay's pretty bad.
Do you have that, like I don't know, a timeline of when you wish to have those water lines replaced?
A Street, services will all be done this year.
Right.
It needs to be done this year.
Yeah, I know.
It's kind of drug out.
But for the roads, I know that we have
Roadways.
we have a list of when we want to get these roads done. Do you have that for the water lines as well?
I do not.
That might be just kind of a planning
No,
going
I can
forward so that
definitely
you
work on
can,
that. And I need to get with Marcus and see what roads he wants to do.
right,
And hopefully it's some of the roads that I want to tear up.
yeah. That way you
Some
can
of my bad
continue
water
to, add money each year for future water line replacement in your budget, so.
And we need to keep up on the water lines, they're pretty bad.
Is there one particular area of town that's worse than the other?
I wouldn't say in particular, there's just certain blocks and stuff, like we just finished South A, and it was pretty bad. They worked a lot of water leaks over there. North A, they need to be replaced.
When you say north, are you talking the entire street or just
Well,
certain
from
parts of
Vine
it? or-
Street to, say, Chestnut, there's a few blocks in there that's really bad. Constantly going over there for leaks in the wintertime and stuff.
I might be out. From the lake to the treatment plant, is that distribution or is that on, that's the
Production.
That'd be on
Production
production.
I would
Yeah.
say
That'd be Leo.
production, I mean, that's another line that needs to be addressed.
I would think that would be
So
Leo.
the water line that's, I guess, south of Vine, has that been replaced on A Street? Or are you just basically
We-
going in and fixing where you have leaks?
No, a few years, when I first started, we replaced Vine Street, gosh, from A to B, up to C Street, I do believe. And we went down B to Burns, and then all the way back to Arnold, it's all been replaced. So A and B Street both need to be replaced all the way up to Chestnut. Chestnut needs to be replaced from C Street to A Street. There's a lot of blocks, there's quite a few blocks in there that need to be replaced.
and
So some of the surrounding area
Has been
newer,
replaced,
you're
yes.
just trying to kind
And
of fill in the middle.
when we lay water line, we'll stub out, so that way we can dig down, tie it back on, and continue on with the line. And some of that, all that in that area's been stubbed out and ready to go, we just gotta go and start.
Do you still have a map of what you replaced and stuff?
Yeah, there's maps down there, and our maps that we got, we're getting done, will tell us where it's been
So
replaced.
you can almost see where the new ones are.
We can see what plastic's in the ground and what's cast.
I keep hearing about the east side of town. Any projects planned for the west side of town?
West side of town, we need to do work on Trap Street, that's a bad spot. From, say, 7th up to 10th, or somewhere around there, there's a stretch that needs to be done in there. I'll have to look at the maps for sure. I think they've replaced some. 9th Street could use it, 8th Street could use it.
Okay.
I just know we work a lot of water leaks over on that north side of town, east side, a lot of water leaks.
More dense population, more dense usage.
Is that because they're older or just the type of line that's in there and the ground that it's in, or just a lot of
rock in
factors?
there, so I don't know if that rock shifts in the wintertime and stuff, and it breaks our lines. It's only a couple feet deep, they didn't go deep enough. I don't know, it could be a number of things over there. And it's old. It just comes down to it. Those old cast lines are old.
Is there any more questions for Cody?
Do we need the 15,000 if we've only spent 3,000 in major equipment? 703,370.
I don't know if they just have kept that in there in case something happens to one of our pieces of equipment or something.
Part of a contingency fund that we've given to every other department?
Honestly, I don't know if there, I mean,
That might be
I took
something
over
to
and got
create.
thrown into the budget, I don't know.
This is your first year
Yeah,
doing the
yeah,
budget,
yeah.
yeah.
Nope.
That might be
I was
something
only
to
here
create as
for a couple months
contingency then.
role. So.
I don't have any
That's,
other
you know, in
questions.
case a breaker or
Right.
jackhammer goes bad.
What have
it
we
can
been
happen.
doing with
Responsible
the other
person.
ones? Doing a capital outlay or?
We've also been giving them a contingency, and
So
if
maybe-
they've had the big projects, we've asked for a capital outlay. line item so that we could
Maybe add a line item for contingency and move 10 of that
maybe.
to a contingency line item, so you'd still have the $5,000 for major equipment and then 10 to kind of use as needed.
Could be.
You know, like I said, I don't know if it's just there in case something breaks, you know, major, have to replace a piece of, like a breaker jackhammer
Right.
or something, packer.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Thank you, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
I'll do what I can on Jason's and just write down any questions we can. One major thing is on the salaries. At some point, we're going to have to budget for 1.5 people down there. I've spoken with Katie this week, and she put it a nice way, saying we're requesting that you eventually hire 1.5 people down there. Eventually, it won't be a request anymore. That's kind of how KDHE operates. Eventually, they'll say you have to have
1.5 more or half a person more?
half a person more. Essentially, somebody
Part-timer.
I think when that new project went in, they said 1.5 or 2.
Mhm.
I'd have to check with Rio on that, but I talked to Marcia at KDHE specifically about this.
I think that's been a requirement for a number of years, but we've failed to accommodate that. Just the same way that when Jason was required to have an X number of hours out of the sewer plant
Yeah.
prior to this change, and that never happened either. So, to be honest, I'll be kind of happy if they do mandate it, since we can't seem to follow their requests.
So, like I said, you could have a large person there, and then bring it back to work.
And make them part-time on both sides, but they are almost getting full-time salary.
I mean, I think it would have to be a split between another department, and we're seeing if anybody internal is interested. I mean, I know there's some folks that work for the city that have shown some interest down there. The good news is Jason was certified at wastewater too recently. So that was another thing Katie brought up. We needed somebody certified down there, and they basically told me with COVID, they said if COVID wouldn't have happened and we weren't short staffed, you guys would have been free enough for this quite a while ago. So I mean, we accomplished a lot there, but the next step will be getting another part-timer down there, and then they'll have to start getting their certifications in wastewater 1, and then maybe eventually wastewater 2.
Who?
I was thinking that hiring one for 2 places, for the water treatment plant and the wastewater plant.
I really think the water plant is pretty good. I mean, with Leo and Andrew.
What would it cost us to hire one more employee?
Well,
Depends on what you're paid.
it would depend, because if we're pulling an employee away from, say, the street department.
No, I'm talking about hiring a whole new one.
I mean, $50,000 after benefits maybe, or maybe before benefits. I don't know.
That might
I
be
mean,
the
it just depends on where, the wage is gonna start and, I mean, I can't calculate.
Jason would be the supervisor, so it would be just essentially a backup to him.
I would,
I'm on the point of Dan, let's get
I would,
Marcia.
I would recommend going that way for multiple reasons. One, you're meeting the KDHE requirement. 2, you've got an extra person down there if somebody has a family emergency and they have to disappear for a week, that if you've got somebody cross-trained that can do both sides of the house,
Yeah.
then you're there. Then you're not like, oh crap, now we're short somebody over here and we don't have anybody else that's qualified.
That should help with the overtime too,
well,
rotation that
So
they
I
have
would,
going on.
I would
Theoretically,
advocate
we
for
wouldn't have it
going
overtime.
that route instead of trying to swap somebody from the street department to,
Not a part-time guy, because.
no, a full-time guy that can do,
And you can use it wherever you want.
and he can do maintenance during the day around the facility or whatnot too.
Yeah. It wouldn't be as much, I guess, swapping somebody around. When I say internal, it's just somebody might already be interested. I know there's some folks that
They would
work with Jason, so
potentially just have to transfer.
just transfer over to the other
But
department.
still, we're gonna need one person to fill that guy too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem getting help in there and,
I mean, if we need to do that in the interim, but I would strongly recommend hiring one more employee if we have somebody that wants to go over there full-time, then somebody to replace wherever that individual came from.
He said flat out, when this big project starts, you have to have at least 1.5, not 2 people, just for that.
Whose salaries come out of this fund?
Jason, that's it?
No.
No, there's gotta be somebody else.
If there is, I'll go work there for that kind of money.
I know he doesn't get paid that much.
I think it's Jason and half of Andrew.
Okay.
I think Andrew's half sewer, half water.
Does anything come out?
Or, What?
I think city manager has been moved to office, but I don't know, I could be wrong on that.
Him? Electric, office admin, electric, 100%. Yeah. So,
Well, so if we've got part-timers or if we add full-timers, I mean, if we've got part-timers, I'd like to see it coded as part-time pay, just so that it's easier for the audit. You know, but if we're gonna add the full-time, then we just need to figure out exactly what that number's gonna be, even if it's the starting pay as a laborer, you know?
I don't think we want to be short-staffed anymore.
No. And I don't think
Grab
they,
ourselves in a
Somebody
bind.
leaves or somebody retires, or that's understaffed.
and I don't think the employees appreciate being short-staffed either.
Once they start working down there, it takes them like 18 months before they can even get certified.
Better be put on a contract, otherwise they need to pay all their training back. It's my opinion.
I got questions about the sewer and spraying, so that's why I'm sitting here waiting.
So that's, but I think Jason's conscious of that.
No,
Do we cover any of the projects down here, just general budget for?
these are expenditures.
As far as the major project.
Yeah, that's going off to some KD's, is it
KDHE payments?
That would all.
That's bonded debt. Or are you talking about Trapp Street improvements?
No, the second phase of it, the sewer plant.
Oh, I
I
don't,
think that's the future.
maybe the reserve for future.
it's gonna have to be, because that bonded debt budget is, what we're anticipating our
Oop.
payments.
Speaking of the future reserve, this note that's at the bottom, the 392,975, is that just,
That will be I would assume that's his total of this, and then he
Oh, okay.
carried down his reserve for future period, which that, you
That
can
would make
disregard
sense.
that, it's gonna change.
yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I assume those KDHE payments, that's what we're planning for.
Is that per year?
No, I think the KDHE payments are for
The
our
wastewater treatment
wastewater treatment plant that we've already done,
Phase one.
phase one.
But that's a yearly payment, not a monthly payment, right?
Right.
Right.
So on the full-time salary,
The,
I'd be comfortable just raising it to 2 people, you're gonna eventually get it in there.
Okay.
and the pickup truck that's because they're gonna split for the other pickup truck? Is that,
Yeah, and I mean, part of that too is like the discussion we were having on mine is this will be, a more of a feasible truck that the distribution department or the street department or whoever could take to a conference. I mean, we're looking at buying a half ton or something like 4.5 ton.
Does Jason still have to take samples to Salina?
yeah, and that's why part of his budget paid for the truck that is at the is water production.
Yeah.
And then the agreement was this next year, water production would pay the other half, and they would buy another truck for the sewer.
He's been taking a class, a wastewater class, and he's been taking like the new truck for that. So, I know this discussion was had last year, and he told this body that he doesn't use mileage to drive his truck around town. He's got a truck down there. It's an older truck, so I mean, a lot of times I think he just takes his truck. He's not charging us mileage to go to the sewer plant to
But,
Napa.
I mean, if he's on city time, he should really be in a city vehicle, because if he gets in an accident, God forbid, I mean, that could open up doors we would rather not have opened.
I agree. Old habits
I
would certainly authorize him to take it home when he needed to do.
Mm.
There's times when he could get called in, until at least we hire another person, that's maybe the conversation, so.
I would say, in my personal opinion, I think that's a different conversation.
I don't think it's order, but, yeah, I think it's fair, I think it's a good way to get caught up on the trust, I certainly have no issue with it, seems like that's what was agreed to kind of last year, so, I mean, if we could, that's only 50,000, and maybe pushing it to get a half line for that even.
But I think we also, some of those departments also have been putting some money back previously in the vehicle equipment reserve. And that might be something that Megan has to go back and see where some of that was pushed into vehicle equipment reserves and designated for whatever other vehicles.
Now, this doesn't have to be like a Lariat edition, it can be a base model truck, it ain't gotta be nothing fancy.
Yeah. What's wrong with Larry?
But even those are ridiculous.
Order a basic truck. It was cheaper to get the XLT than the
Yeah.
basic, which was surprising.
Probably because they had the XLTs on the lot, and they wouldn't have to order the basic model.
I had to order a brand new one.
Oh,
And it's like, well, that's the cheapest they could get it.
huh.
I was like, okay, whatever.
Typically the state or discounts are pretty good on those, so, I mean, I think Vinny said he checked with somebody and they were in the 50 to 54,000 range for a half ton, so obviously Ford is more expensive than Civic pay for it.
Megan, keep in mind, since we're going to increase to 2 people, you may want to look back at their uniform budget too. Their budget request for uniforms. Right now, their request is $750. Might as well just keep it at $1,000.
What number? Okay. I found it.
703-110.
I think the UV system, I believe he's doing some replacement.
I don't think, was the UV system working?
It might not.
I don't think it is. Last I heard.
I never heard the other.
I thought there was some issues that they had that. Right.
I think it's just the bulbs are hard to get.
Okay.
It's pricier and you want to have them on hand. So.
Mayor's cleaning price, are they going to be going up, or are we just expecting them to go up?
I think he's probably wanting to do more.
Okay.
Is my guess there, but
They do a third of it
Right.
a year, so it's probably gonna go up by the rest of this. Are we on a three-year contract payment, do you know?
That sounds about right.
I think it might
And I
be
think-
coming up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like we did that when I got here.
Like
So.
I think for 3 years, so that every 3 years they renegotiate the contract, so they do a third of it for each year.
And it might be something we have to put out for additional bids to other companies and whatnot too.
I think we,
Yeah. I think so.
it's like a good RFP.
Yeah, a request for proposals.
So when were they supposed to redo the sewer plant?
Well, we've started phase 1, and that's been completed.
That was the water plant, right?
No, also on the sewer. Also on the sewer, because we were having issues with the sewer plant. So now we have to start phase 2, but we have to figure out where that money's coming from.
So, we were not, they strictly like.
Yeah.
Right.
We're about to shut us down.
Yeah.
It's still on the radar. I know he's working with SMH, and I don't know if they're either waiting for construction estimates or something.
aren't we waiting for it to maybe hit that grant cycle
think it's
again?
the grant
Yeah,
cycle,
I
but-
think that's what we're waiting on.
I understand from the Department of Commerce that that grant cycle is not coming anytime soon unless it's a mandate. And I don't want to get to a mandate.
Full project, you guys reckon, like 4
I thought it was close to 6. It was like a little over 5, because it was 3.5 for the water, like 2.5. Was it really?
And the sewer was, I think, close to 4 of those.
Something around there, yeah.
I thought he said the next phase was like 2.5. Yeah.
Right.
And we spent, basically 1 million already.
Yeah.
And I'll be the one that says it. Why not? it might be something that we have to seriously have a conversation about a sales tax increase for infrastructure improvement.
Didn't we get a loan for $3.5 million already?
For
The
the water, just for the water production,
For the water plant.
water plant, yeah,
It was close to 5.
close to
They
5.
kept adding on, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So not for the sewer, 2 different facilities.
One end to the other.
So now we're looking at an additional $4 to $5 million for the sewer plant?
In totality, if we do it all at once,
And
probably.
that's the price that we have paid the last 5 years, because it got down to, we were out of time. We were gonna be shut down with water and sewer.
Where did we get the $5 million for the water plant?
Loans.
What is it?
So right now
USDA
we
loan?
have a loan through KDHE right now. USDA is giving us the money, the $3.5 million will be applied, and then we're just paying out the rest in payments to
So
USDA.
when you say gave us the money, they loaned us the money?
So KDHE loaned us the money. The USDA is a grant. So there's going to be
Okay.
forgiveness part of that $5 million loan,
Right.
and then we finance.
Like 3/4 of it.
Yeah. So then we are going to finance out the rest of it.
And that's what that 97,000 is.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
For the
No.
that's
No,
for the
this is
sewer.
That is for
Yeah.
sewer, that's a different loan.
Yeah.
That's bonded
Ay,
debt.
ay, ay.
Yeah.
That is bonded debt. I think Megan's probably gonna end up going over
I don't
that.
have the water with me. It was we went over that at the last one.
Yeah.
So about,
Roughly
yeah.
11,
Yeah.
roughly 11.
It's pretty
So-
close to that.
Would we have to go the same route for the sewer money?
It's
Or
for the-
can we go
We-
the same route?
It's the cheapest interest.
Yeah.
That we can.
Unless you wanna come up with the sales tax.
Well, somebody lost my VFW checkbook, so if you haven't find a checkbook running around, you know,
Is that what I wrote that check out?
Yeah. Can we get multiple loans from KDHE at the same time?
We can only have so much too, but because we can't, we have to also be considerate of what our
Debt to income ratio is just
debt to
kinda-
income and our own credit rating,
Right.
so,
We have.
for the moment.
And-
We couldn't even possibly look at these projects if we didn't have it.
Right.
And it's projected just to pay the loan off we have now to take, what, 20 years?
Roughly.
I think we did 20-year loans.
I think it was a 20-year loan if I remember it.
The last major thing, upgrade was in '79, that was their.
A lot of these plants will get so bad that AT&T comes in and says, you just need to build a new one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what happened to the last community I was in, and they're notorious for coming in and saying, just build a new one.
We were close to that.
$25 million, so.
I'm trying to figure out a way we can avoid that.
That
Get
would be
this-
avoided by each generation of commission budgets to.
That
the
getting
future.
this done now. At least that we could push it off to the next generation.
Progress again, I mean, if Jason was here, he'd be able to explain it a little better than I am, but I know we're supposed to meet on this soon. Get with our consultant and see where everything's at.
It'd be good if maybe we can get a timeline or an expected timeline or something.
Ron had the.
He does.
I'll check in with Todd soon.
Is there any, more on sewer distribution that we need to go on?
Are they gonna be buying another new mower, or what are we spending $1,200 on a mower about?
That's gas. I think that's just gasoline.
I guess I should look at what that line item is. Never mind.
It's Friday. It's okay.
Forgive my question. Whatever.
Obviously, I think the backup generators are now.
Which if they got a generator with the electric department, it would run the whole town if we had 2 of them.
Yeah, so the backup generator that we got now. is
Right.
On the new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once we get it in like another year.
It's old, it's old.
I think that's all I have. I'll certainly pass those questions along to Jason.
Number 9.
All right, do I need to go stand up there, or can I sit here and talk to
We
you?
can sit there.
Okay.
What the hell? Why not? We're all having a conversation.
So I went with the 5% as well. I know, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think if there was anything really major. I actually went down a little bit in my request, not a whole lot, maybe less than $1,000. But so my stuff is pretty on par with what it was last year. Just kind of moved stuff. You know, we had a couple of accounts that we were, you know, over in, and some that we were under in. So I just kind of tried to adjust there. One big jump that I'd like you guys to just be aware of is our publication and legal advertising. It is outrageous what we pay to have our ordinances and legal notices published in the newspaper.
So,
We might want to look into having a different newspaper next year
So somebody,
for our publication.
another one reached out to me, and they do distribute papers here. We couldn't change like mid-year because we vote on that at the beginning of in January at the first meeting. But I have kind of talked to Brad about that because, you know, it's insane.
so I know legally we have to put it in the paper, but papers are becoming basically obsolete. So what is ask Brad, what is our legal, that we
That's-
legally have to do to notify people?
The state statute
State
is like,
statute still requires
it's
us to have
ancient
a-
publication paper.
So, well, nobody has a paper right here, where do you put it at?
Somebody will always have a paper
Then
somewhere.
you have to get to the closest paper,
Yeah.
basically.
Whatever's gonna be
So,
distributed in your area.
Yeah. Which Salina can be distributed here, so technically, you know what I mean? But there's another one that's closer than Salina that had reached out.
And
so.
they're cheaper than what we're currently using. And
That's
I
what
think
they
that,
can,
and they have a better overall distribution.
Hopefully they're more reliable.
Yes. So remember that in January that we need to
What-
maybe
what-
look at a
what-
different newspaper.
What is general administration leasing?
Huh?
What are you leasing?
Our copy machine.
Is it? That's $1,000 a year in a lease?
Actually, no, that might actually be paid out of a different one. Let me see. That's probably paid out of light office admin. I have to look.
On your, Megan,
Oh.
on your postage, do you use stamps or do you use one of those postage machines?
I was just gonna say it could be our postage machine too. That's not enough, but that's split. The postage machine is split between like office, police, fire, and some other ones. So that could be the portion of the postage machine.
Because I know their stamps are getting ready to go up another 3 bloody cents here tomorrow, actually, I think.
Yeah, but I can double check what that is.
Are we full staff now?
In City Hall? Yes. And this salaries is not for any of the people that work in City Hall. This is for you and a portion of Brad's salary.
It's almost a large bit of Brad, if it's 27.5 to add up. So, but
If that's the case, let's just have that conversation now. Is you planning on raising the commission spread? I mean, if that's the case, you know what the commission can raise.
Right.
That's $600 for each one of those.
I'm all for getting rid of it, but that's just me.
Yeah. So I guess that doesn't really need to change very much, actually. Well, I guess, yeah. You have to talk to me about, you know, if Brad's included in that kind of stuff or not.
I mean, last year he was, because we hadn't increased the attorney pay for years.
I feel like he wasn't, though.
He should have been.
I'll double check
Every
that too.
employee with the exception of like full staff.
No, I raised pool staff. I raised pool staff, not like the COLA, not anything like that, but I had to bump the starting pay for pool staff to get people to work here because they could go work at the grocery store and AC for more.
So you can almost go work over the grocery store for $1 night.
So, I mean, yeah, we couldn't get anybody, we had to raise it a little bit, so.
Might just be something just to take a
Okay.
Other than that, I have no more on general administration.
Okay.
Now, your accounting and auditing, that's split up between all different departments, right?
Yes.
Anything else? Commission comments.
Oh, do you want me?
we've-
Let me
we've
get.
got-
I got multiple.
she's got multiple
Yeah.
budgets.
I have like
She's
8
got multiple
budgets.
budgets.
Trying to get out of here a little bit quick.
Yep, sorry.
Page 14.
Yeah, you're on page 14. Now,
Also, page 48, if you look at the top.
right?
Yeah, page 14,
Okay, before you
15,
even start,
16, 17,
Because
18,
obviously,
20.
I am out of the loop on this stuff. It says water.
Yes.
Which part of water?
So this is separate. So underwater.
Oh my God, this
yeah.
is separate from
So-
the other three?
Underwater, you have water office administration, you have water production, water distribution, and water non-operating. You have the same titles for the light fund.
So you have office, production, distribution, and non-operating?
Yes.
And also the administration.
He said office first.
Oh, well, yeah. Sorry. I apologize. It's a lot of funds.
I just,
So, and then these are all structured as like departments under your fund.
Right. These would be basically the city hall employees.
These are not. No. I'd have to look it up. I can't remember off the top of my head who gets paid out of water office admin.
I mean, wouldn't that
Maybe
be...
that's a portion of. No.
Julie's.
I was gonna say, wouldn't that be billing?
I don't think so. I'll have to look. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah. I'll look that up. for
Maybe
guys.
you might have to look at everybody's and see who's going out of what.
I guess I'm a little bit down on this one too. Like, I need to go through, now that I have the Capers numbers, I don't have Blue Cross and Blue Shield numbers yet for sure. That's supposed to be here around mid-July. You know, Social Security is not going to change, but I really need to take a look at like the benefits. So all of those are just estimates across the board for me right now. You know, there you can see here like on liability, you know, we're still working it out to make sure that everybody who budgets for that is broken out in the billing. We had some issues with, you know, like the building insurance, but I think we got the building insurance separated out, you know, right this year. But even like there was a year or two where the accounting wasn't paid for by all of the departments; it was just paid for by one. And so we're working really hard to try and, you know, divvy that up properly. So that's why I have the money there for the liability insurance, with it being like a zero.
It only makes sense so that we can know how much each department actually is
Yeah, and it,
costing
you
the
know,
city.
we're working towards it.
Anything else?
Not on water. I'm good.
Okay, so light, again, office administration covers the majority of our salaries at City Hall, all of Thatcher's, all of mine, all of Shanda's, I know for sure. I'll look at Julie and Kathy. They might be split, but all of those for sure. Let's see. Same thing with Capers and insurance. I'll have better numbers for you by mid-July on that one.
We can pay a computer services for the whole.
WCCIT, our not insurance, our like our IT people, they manage like all of our.
No, so but the whole office, what is it?
The whole city, actually.
What do we pay?
Yeah. I mean, you got it broken down, but.
Yeah, I'd have to go through and add up everybody's.
Well, I keep seeing about 2,500 on every one of these. Do we really pay that much?
I mean, I just did a, like one of our, like plug-in, what's that thing? Server, like drive or
Right.
something, and the server went bad. Devin was out here. That was like, I want to say $1,000 for a new one, you know. I'm paying them right now to, you know, some of the girls are operating in here on like a really old version of Microsoft. So I'm paying him, you know, Monday to remote in and upgrade all of our computer systems because we're starting to have issues, you know, being compatible with websites.
We've got desktops over 5 years old.
Right.
You know,
I mean,
that's
is
another
a real-
thing that we're working on upgrading.
Do you ever, well, there is this, how long is it, you've been with this guy a long time,
I mean, yeah, I mean, as far as I know, it's been,
And maybe going out for bid for some of these services that are contracted, maybe we have to do those more often.
yeah, I mean,
I don't know what,
To me-
all expensive, but, you know,
yeah, I mean, to me, well, and then we had to do like, you know, some other upgrade that hadn't been done, and we missed 2, and, you know, I mean, it's just so much, and
Catching up, a lot of it too.
And to me, you know, in this case, and we can definitely go out for bid, but in this case, I feel like we have a really good relationship with Devin. You know, we can call him when we have any kind of issues, and he handles it right away. He knows all of our equipment. You know what I mean? Like,
But
so
you could,
I'm,
but you
know,
could still
but
go out
at the
for
same-
bid,
yeah.
and he could put that bid in.
So,
we don't, you don't have to set the whole bid.
Right.
If you find somebody, I'm just.
yeah,
Just
no,
saying.
it's very expensive.
If you were gonna replace computers, would he be the one you'd go through, or would you go out and do?
So he advises us on what we need, and he actually several times has like done the shopping for us, and he knows more about computers than any of us can, and he can give us different price points and say, you know, in this scenario, like when we had to buy the laptop for there, he's like, or maybe not that one, but he's like, you could definitely use like a refurbished one for this because, you know, you're not using it for anything other than, you know, streaming meetings. You don't need any kind of
There's a lot of
memory or-
companies that will layer in administrative fees to those and only let you buy what they're getting, like one branded computer.
Mhm.
From what I've seen, there's no requirements on that.
No, and he,
And
there's,
sometimes the ways
As long as it's compatible with the firewall
Right.
system, then that's.
yeah. And I know when I bought like this laptop, I emailed him. I'm like, I want a laptop, and he's like, this is what you should look for. And I was on like Amazon, Best Buy, you know, trying to find whatever. And then when I find one, I'll send it to him and be like, will this work? And he says, you know, yes or no. So,
I would advocate for possibly putting in your budget maybe 1 or 2 computer replacements per year.
yeah. Well, and there's money in computer services for that too.
I spoke with Devin a little bit about a machine replacement program. That basically just an Excel sheet with every computer we have, and that way, at 5 years, you just replace them.
Yeah. Julie and
for
Kathy
example.
are like,
You know, you can always forego if one's still working good at the 5-year mark, but at least then you're planning.
I've literally had the same computer for 7 years. And that's also though I refuse to do upgrade.
we're getting to the point now where stuff's just not compatible and it's not working, and we're getting kicked off websites, and
Right.
you know, it's
and that goes with the police station and everything else, he does the whole city, doesn't he?
he plays a part in that. The police station, you know, they have like a separate contract through their server is different than our server. Theirs is like tied in with the county, so they have, you know, additional support. But yes, Devin takes care of stuff down there for them as well.
Tighter security controls and stuff.
Just something, I don't recommend changing anything, but just to look at,
Something to think about.
You know, are people honest and we did everything,
Something to think about for sure.
anything more on the line? General.
General, this is municipal court on page 16. I didn't make a whole lot of changes here. I'm trying to find it like kind of leveled out. So, you know, originally we had budgeted with a, you know, a part-time person in that position with like the full part-time salary. I've taken that on now. So in the salaries is my portion, the judge's portion, and some of Brad's as well. You know, I didn't change a whole lot on this. when we hit our tickets, municipal court is pretty self-sufficient. So.
What's the mileage deal? What's that?
So we pay Judge Barker mileage for coming here, and then I increased it a little bit, and I can take it off if you want, but I plan to attend the court clerks conference in Wichita this fall, and I would like to drive myself in my car.
You have a police clerk and a court clerk,
And they cannot be the same.
they cannot be the same.
We were
Is that a requirement, or is that a suggestion, or a wish?
The last conversation I remember having is it was a very strong recommendation that they not be the same.
And who recommended that?
Who
That's
was
what
that?
my question is. I think at the time I recall, it was a wish. It was a wish of the police chief, John, and as an enticement to keep Melissa on.
Well, the other problems that we do run in when you have a court clerk and a municipal and a police records clerk is those are two very different, distinct departments where you potentially can come up with conflicts of interest.
So we could structure it where the court clerk would still like be under me, which is, what I would probably recommend like in the future. But for right now, so I think the whole thought process behind it, and I don't know if there was like ulterior motives, but how it was like proposed to me and it made sense was that if you have the chief of police over the boss, over the court clerk, then they're essentially in charge of everything from,
They're in charge of
arresting the person to seeing him through the whole court system, and it should be
judge, jury,
separate.
and
You shouldn't,
executioner.
you shouldn't have the court money
I'm not-
and the fines down in the police department
Let me,
type of a.
Redirect my question. We had a part-time in here in Shelley. We lost the part-time and you took it over.
Mhm.
I just wondered, are you overwhelmed or can you do both? Or, I don't want to short your time with what you need to do as a city clerk.
I
If we
understand.
can get another part-time, different.
That I agree with.
So my worry on that, and eventually, okay, so my goal was to utilize a part-time court clerk to also cross-train in the various city hall duties, to be that extra backup person and like a succession plan. But at this point, I mean, I feel like the girls have been really like open and honest with me about like when they plan to retire and like what's going to happen. Like right now, I feel like it's a waste of money to have somebody in that court clerk position as a full part-time. If you want to drop it back some, I literally spend 4 days a month on court. That's it.
Just one
Like-
day a week, Thursday mornings or whatever it is?
It's 2 days every 2 weeks. So court's on Tuesday. So
So one
I
hall, so
I spend Tuesday preparing for court, and I spend Wednesday wrapping up what I did in court, and then I don't touch it again until the next court day.
But what city clerk functions could you be doing if you weren't doing court clerk those 4 days?
I mean, I don't
You can
know what
take
I
those
would
4
specifically
days.
be doing. I don't know.
My
I
guess
mean,
is she wouldn't get those 4 days back. I think with the quality of person she hires as part-time, I think the options will be limited, and I think she would spend a bunch of time training them and still working on it. But I could be.
Well, you train them. It's like you give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach him to fish. You'll have to train anybody anyway. We've spent time training Megan and learning that process. My concern is that in other communities, that is not a function of the city clerk position.
actually, you would be surprised how many cities of our size, the city clerk is the municipal court clerk as well. It's very, very common, and it's structured like that. I mean, I know.
That's okay.
I mean,
I've heard different. So,
But I mean, when we go down to like the conferences and through like my CCMFOA group of clerks in Kansas, it's a lot. And I'm not saying that I necessarily have to do this forever. I don't feel like I'm drowning either, though. So
I'm saying, I know we can't ask when people retire, but we discuss people that could retire. I don't want to be, all right, we rush or short somebody all day. Just look at a plan to get somebody in and
multiple months. Yeah, that would be great. And I think at that time, it would be appropriate to like shift around duties. But right now, you know, and maybe get somebody in there for, you know.
One of your utility billing clerks could be a part-time court clerk too. I mean, I think that would be no problem. We could always look at a part-timer, but I just think.
No, I just want to bring it up because I know when we have, I don't want to shortchange you on doing your job if you're overwhelmed. And I really don't know what his job does. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what you do with court or pictures or anything like that. But I just want, on any department we have, if we hire somebody, he needs to be trained in everything. Like if you hire a guy for the treatment plant out here, he should work with the reservoir part-time. Everyone will work together.
So in your honest assessment, are you okay with the way things are right now, knowing that in the future, possibly nearer than farther, that we may look at getting a court clerk if we find someone who we can trust to keep their mouth shut?
I think that when because we had a lot of turnover, like, and a lot of changes in like the police department over the last several years too, and so like we had some really, really highs, you know, for like revenues generated through court for a couple years, and then we had some really, really lows, you know, and so we were not making enough to support a part-time person. So that's kind of part of the reason why I decided to take it on too, was to try and, you know, level that back out. But if we could get to a point where we were like sustaining like a certain number, you know, of revenue each year for court, then we could sustain that salary. I mean, you could make it busy enough, you know, to sustain a person there part-time or somebody to cross-train.
I know there's a company that we might have the full process now, but is anything else on the report budget?
Do the fees to the jail, do they come out of municipal court or the police department?
Municipal court.
So.
No, you might be right. I think it's the police department.
Okay.
I'd have to look. I know I get the bill.
I just couldn't remember if it comes out of municipal court or if it goes out of police.
I think it's the police. I get the bill, but I think police pays for it.
Okay.
Again, I didn't really make any changes. I did increase the salaries because, you know, we did increase it a little bit. I think people were starting at $7.10 was our starting wage, or $7.25 was our starting wage, and I think we went up to $7.50. And then they get a 10-cent raise every year that they come back. So.
So we're on 17, right?
Mhm.
What's 703, 260? Full chemicals, also oxygen selling for it.
So that's all the like chlorine or whatever that they put into the pools.
It's just a general description. It could
Yeah,
probably
I
be
mean
fixed.
it's
It could definitely be
so
fixed.
I mean right. I mean
Not cutting anything down there.
yeah, no, it's just
Well,
you know,
maybe.
we chose it for the chemical part of it. No, we don't have a line item for like absolutely everything. I mean, we try to break it up, but you know,
Just
yeah.
a quick question.
On 703-110, not to be rude or crude, but they have a larger uniform budget than any other department, and they wear less.
That's true.
Those swimsuits are so expensive. It is
We pay
insane.
them buy the swimsuit?
Yes. We buy the swimsuits
But
and
last year you only spent $883.
yeah. I guess I put that in there because I never know. Some years we get a lot of people that come back that were there the year before and they are fine and they can wear their same suits from before. some years we have, you know, huge influx. Like I think I only put in like 2 or 3 new lifeguards this year. Everybody else was like returning. But I don't know. I can't guarantee
How many
that we're not going to have like, you know, 10 new lifeguards.
How many lifeguards do we employ?
So we probably have 20-ish. Some work 5 hours a week. Some work 35 hours a week. It just kind of depends. You
And
know?
maybe if there was less and they worked more, they would be more inclined to continue to work.
I understand. But they're teenagers. Some of them, you know, like a lot of them play sports. You know, we have several boys that are lifeguards that are also playing baseball, you know, so that falls into it.
Some of those probably work less than 10 hours a week, right? Or-
There's a handful that work like very, very small, you
Well,
know.
Yeah,
But
but
then
you know
we
what?
have,
Yeah, but if you get somebody and you say, "Oh, well, we might only be able to give you 5 hours a week for work," I wouldn't want to go to work there.
no, and that's not,
And I think that's directed through the pool manager.
it's not, we don't say we're only going to give you 5 hours a week. If there's 10 employees and they all want to work and they can all commit to it, then the hours are, you know, split between them. If you have one that makes themselves available to like do all the pool parties until 10 o'clock at night, you know, and you have one that doesn't want to, like, you know, you get to work as many hours as you want to work. And I know that they're really good about sending people home when attendance is low or weather's bad. I mean, Amanda Barnes.
Okay.
Anything else on the motion?
Do we have it in the pool's budget, or is the fire department doing their continuing training as far as BLS and CPR that they have to be recertified in every year?
I know that Amanda had reached out to Vinny to schedule some continuing education with the fire department. I don't know if that's necessarily like budgeted in here, or if it, you know, would just fit into like first aid, or something.
I think Benny mentioned that when he was doing his presentation.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Would the fire department charge the pool for that though, technically, or?
And I don't know if they would or not.
Well,
Because Vinny's the
Yes
guy that does
and-
the training.
I mean, yes and no,
I mean, there's maybe like
because you've got to know how much it's costing the fire department to operate.
So,
So I mean, it may be one of those things that doesn't necessarily get charged, but there would still be a cost.
And I can definitely add in that like training line item too, and that way we can track how much we spend on that kind of stuff.
I think now that Vinny's aware of that, they'll get that on a rotating schedule. I think it's been kind of lax down there in the past few years on doing that, but I think now that Vinny's capable of doing the training, I think he'll bring it up to every pool manager every
I just
year.
want to make sure we get it documented that everybody is getting the required training every year, so we don't have a situation that's already happen again in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I know our former pool manager did one last year, a guard training. We
For
might,
us this year, but now our swim team coach, who's been with us for several years at the pool now, is taking on the responsibility of taking that training to be able to train the guards. So moving forward, Amanda Hawkins will be the one that does all the lifeguard training at the pool,
if we ever
besides what Vinny comes in to do.
had to outsource that though, we have to budget for that. Or if we had to bring somebody in to train guards from the city or that.
It's not a specific line item, so maybe that's something that we need to look at adding.
Anything else? All right. Employee benefits.
So, yeah, on this, again, it's another thing that I'm still waiting on Blue Cross numbers. I increased capers a little bit because I know there's going to be like a 1% increase on contributions. Social Security is going to be about the same. Workman's comp, I'm assuming, is going to be about the same. And then I took unemployment insurance back down. Like I told you guys at the last meeting, we saw our rate went down substantially for that now.
And of course, some of those numbers will go up too if everybody receives a COLA.
Right. I mean, there's still, some cushion in there, and with even just the numbers, like we're using them. So, anyways, that's my ongoing project.
Did you get a sense from the insurance company how much the medical insurance is going to go up?
What was that?
Cause I thought you had said something like 10%.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm remembering too.
Yeah,
She
10 to 15%.
10 to 15% is what she kind of threw out at me as a rough estimate, but
And-
they are able to do some kind of calculation in mid-July.
So you
So.
won't get the actual numbers
I won't, because,
for
and
3
we,
more weeks?
well, and those won't even be actual numbers, those will be an estimate. We renew in December, and there's no way to know for sure what it's going to be.
But they'll be somewhere closer.
That's
Hopefully.
the other thing I don't like.
I
is
mean,
that
there could be something that, you know, I mean, like, that COVID year, our premiums just,
That's just the other thing I don't like, is that we renew these benefits in December, and we don't have a new budget
Is there any
till the
particular
next,
reason
next,
that's done that
next
way?
month.
I don't know if it's when, I mean, I would assume that that's when we started with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I mean, that, you know, I have no idea why we renew in December. And I don't, yeah, I honestly don't know if that's, something that we could even change. I don't know.
It just would be nice if either it was closer to the time we're doing the budget,
Yeah.
Sure would make things easier.
so that we would know.
But again, I mean, employee benefit is kind of a fun, like the general fund in a sense where, you know, if we over budget, we can roll it over and have that like cash carry forward, which I feel is like really important in that fund. So,
And
I
there's
tend-
also a recommendation that we haven't been saving for
yeah.
future
And so, I mean, it would be my recommendation to, you know, just be a little bit, you know, higher on those. Any other? Okay, so Parks and Rec, I need to probably adjust this a little bit. So I hadn't given this to Marcus when he typed it out. We get our Parks and Rec fund is funded by like an alcohol tax that we receive, and our tax amount for this year is $6,994.15.
That's gonna go up
Yeah.
with the consumption in
Right.
town here.
So now I need to put this back in the, like with all the other ones that had that reserve for future period. I need to put it in the workbook, see where we, you know, ended this year, and be able to like figure out exactly what we're reserving for the future period. Marcus just threw, you know, that 10 in there, and I don't know if that's accurate, but I did want to let you guys know that that's how much we received.
Oh, for a new gazebo down at Father Padilla?
Huh?
For a new gazebo down at Father Padilla?
I don't know. Talk to Marcus. Okay, and then stormwater, same thing. That is determined by the special highway, right? No.
But we have full-time salaries coming out of stormwater? Special
Um,
projects?
no, I thought stormwater did.
So much for
Yeah, you're right.
It's confusing because it says special projects.
No. Let's see. Maybe I don't have that one with me. I might have to circle back around to that one. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
Well, okay. Anyways, I don't know if you guys are gonna want to. Maybe I should have had Marcus come in here for this one. If you're gonna want to keep, you know, the full-time salary, or if we're not gonna do that anymore, that's where we were paying the person to street sweep out of. So, you know, this one's kind of up in the air too.
Maybe that could be a part-time water or sewer plant and street sweeper.
Could
Do
be.
we still have that gentleman?
No, he left, and I think the consensus is they're gonna split it amongst the crew. But, you know, I think there's gonna be some internal switching around and stuff. I would shy away from, I'm just not 100% sure where everything's gonna land. You know, who we hire for the open street department and water department.
This might get your extra position you wanted, though.
I mean, that's your will, where you put everything, and who's gonna do what.
Right.
Except for we have to be able to fund them to do that.
not gonna be as much hiring 5 new people total, it's more, that one person might leave the department. I know there might be some.
So I think the consensus of the commission is to hire at least one full-time employee. And wherever you're short in street department. Basically.
Right.
So you're really only increasing one, because you,
You've got the budget for the rest.
yes.
Right.
So wherever they're at, doesn't matter to, you'll have to juggle where they're coming out of, but you have permission to get a full-time employee, an extra one.
That way you
But
can help.
consensus of the,
That way you can definitely help sewer down there before it becomes an issue for KDHE and everything else. So
so wherever you want this to go, it could stay on it for right now until you figure out who lands where and what.
But
Right.
won't we run into issues if we start pulling people from the street department? Because
Well, the street
I've heard before that we're pulling them to do mowing and stuff, and they're not able to do the pothole fixing and all that other stuff, because we've got them doing mowing. I'm concerned about pulling additional people out of the street department to do other things, and we even get farther behind in things we should be taking care of.
So they're in the process of hiring, trying to find one street department.
To replace the street sweeper guy?
No, essentially to replace, yeah.
Okay.
He was the street sweeper, he was supposed to supplement the work in, the street department, but he was mainly just sweeping the streets, and that's part of the concern YouTube product, was that, why is he sweeping all the time? You know?
So they're gonna hire somebody to work for the street department, so
Yeah.
they can catch up on street repairs, mowing, mowing.
And then sweep as needed.
I think we could still pay them out of the stormwater, I don't know if it would matter to Megan, I think it's just semantics, maybe you could still pay them out of stormwater, but they're gonna be mostly doing street department labor.
So
It's not
then-
gonna be-
And you can, and
My recommendation would still hold, that you need to hire one more person for the sewer water area, so that we can
Right.
meet that requirement of, I don't know how they can say 1.5 people.
Yeah.
So that we can meet that requirement, even if they say, oh, it's now 2, well, we'll already have 2 people there.
I agree.
And we can use really, basically, they're learning both places.
Yeah.
Everybody works, we have to work together.
And our crew, all of them do very, very well at helping each other.
Right.
Across departments. Anybody has a need, they're right there offering to help.
Yeah. They're good at that. The only thing is the water plant, you have, or the sewer plant, you have to track those hours specifically. And then that makes you eligible. So the guy's helping the sewer plant right now, like, if a guy from the street department goes down there and checks on something for Jason, he's not logging in the hours.
Yeah, I think you have to track your water, too.
Yeah.
So, but you know, Jason and I are aware of that, and I think he's ready to start looking. So, I think he wants to help. So, but,
See any more on stormwater or anything? Now,
Now
now,
you're through the
now you
packet.
can say it.
first of all, Shelley, you got questions?
I do. It is nothing, I just want to, you guys spray for mosquitoes?
Only by library.
No, what I'm asking, because before, the City of Lost Springs used to hire you guys, and I didn't know if you guys still did it or not.
If the city of Lost
Yeah,
Springs
like-
wants to propose a contract to the city of Harrington, I'm sure we would be more than happy
I
with
I
that.
think the electric department did it mostly at the parks and like the ball fields. Yeah.
They used to go down D
No,
Street.
She's talking
Once in
about
a
it in
while,
other
I see
cities
him coming down there with a
contract
little
the city of Harrington.
mister thing.
I think we still spray for mosquitoes,
Right.
but you need to get with, Pastor and then work out something.
The sewer?
City manager.
Okay, with that. Okay, and then you said Jason is certified for sewer now too?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Because City of Lost Springs needs somebody to do that, check them.
Ah.
Theirs is just, I mean, he would just go down there and just check, that's it.
I'm not sure if that'd be possible, but we can talk about it.
Here's an opportunity to have a
Opportunity
reason.
for our sewer guy, it doesn't have to do through the city.
Right.
He contracts separately because he's a licensed thing. Dennis used to do for.
That could be,
And, And it could be the same agreement, unfortunately, that I don't really like all that much, but it could be the same agreement that we have with building inspection, that they pay the city of Herington a certain amount to cover some of that cost.
So, and you could reach out to any,
Whole nother
reach
conversation.
out to anybody that has a class 2 sewer.
Okay.
But,
I don't know, because, we have a meeting in July. You know how Lost Springs is, so. I would just tell them that Jason, because the last one, where you had Dennis come and he did, and then after that, I don't think we had anybody, so.
I think there's still, I would still advocate for some kind of agreement from Lost Springs if unless it was a separate out of deal contract and he's an employee of yours too, that's a different situation.
Yeah, I think that's what Dennis was, and everything. I mean, we just paid him until, he just.
so you can either talk to Jason,
Or you can talk
or
to
Jason, or whatever.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I understand, like, so Ramona, Birdie, Bill, Lost Springs, were all done by Dennis. So when Dennis retired, they lost their sewer guy.
But yeah, I mean,
But it was nothing to do through the city. Strictly a contract between Lost Springs and Dennis.
but it could become.
It could be, yeah.
But, I think the spraying was through the city, wasn't it?
Yeah, the city sprayed your town, they paid so much.
Right.
Kind of like we do the sewer machine, we run to Lost Springs and then for the city.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. That particular arrangement, whether it was through the city or not, I would run that through KDHE and just at least get her take on it. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it, especially after we get another person hired, then I would probably be fine. Ensuring our focus is
You need to come to Lost Springs sometime. While they're taking down.
All right, all right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you.
more questions, you can get hold of Thatcher or me or one of us up here.
Okay, thank you.
Dan.
I would like to and this is just strictly a recommendation, that we look at each department doing a 1% of their final budget and putting into a savings account for that specific department. For example, if you had a $500,000 budget, that's only $5,000.
Into like a reserve for future?
Or contingency.
Just put it somewhere where they can start building cash money so that,
Future is the one that rolls.
I mean, one way to do that is I would recommend the percentage of the entire budget go into
or we can do it that way.
the equipment reserve fund and the capital improvement fund.
Whatever the whole,
Yeah.
whole city budget ends up being, if we can afford it, even if it's a 0.5%.
Those two funds are crucial for cities. I mean, you can use them for a lot of different things, and that's the only really way that the entire budget will carry money over.
And that's the only way we're gonna grow and survive, because this stuff of flying by our seat of our pants every year and trying to come up with funds to cover the increase in everything that happens every year.
Yeah.
And God knows what's gonna happen next year.
And there's some years we just have to freeze and roll the weight out, or just the plan for the future.
But I would like to see that that's not something we could look at, seriously looking at doing to see if it's even financially possible without slitting our throat. Even if we have to start at 0.25% and then try to work up every year, adding 0.25% to that until we get to 1%, 1.5%, so that we have money in a discretionary fund where, oh crap,
Right.
you know.
There's that, but then there's also that list that Brandon started, that adding to the like the lake fund, the trailhead, and he was he had it designated for 3 to 5 years, putting X amount of dollars in each one of those.
Special project fund.
Right.
Yeah.
So hopefully we have that still continuing on.
Yeah. I agree. We gotta find a way, to address the auditor's concern, which is and make sure it's not running so lean. And then, also what he said, some funds. So
stuff comes up, the commission has to look to, right?
And as an example, you know, they wrecked a fire truck and they can't replace it. And luckily, we had the money to go out and buy a
Right.
short-term fix.
Now, however, on the fire truck, I will tell you, that the reason that fire truck hasn't been replaced yet is not city's fault, it is insurance fault. They have not paid on that claim.
No, but we would have
So-
money in a fund
yes.
set aside if something like that does happen, that we could have the funds to go out and replace a vehicle that we're required to have, or.
Yeah, you're still planning, you still want your department planning, having vehicle replacement programs.
Sure.
But you want to give the commission a lot more leeway when you have.
It's a nice pillow to go home and go to sleep on at night when you
Right.
realize that, you know, you're building
Right.
a fund that you can have for a rainy day.
Yeah.
No, that's it.
What's the plan for getting, the final budget numbers to us after the worksheet that you prepare and put it in? Because we'll need to review that before we do the R&R.
I mean, unless we wanted to have, so I'll let Megan speak, but my take is unless we want to either A, come in early for the next meeting and have some sort of a third workshop just to say this is where we've got all the numbers from all the departments, this is where we've landed, and, you know, we got to cut X amount of dollars. And so that can either be a really long discussion in the next commission meeting as a part of the revenue neutral rate discussion. We could try to have, you know, Megan's going to need at least until probably a few days before that meeting to get all this plugged in and provide recommendations. So it's up to the commission if we just want to, I mean, we know we're going to have a long meeting on the 18th. You know, if we want to carve out 45 minutes or an hour for that discussion of where we are at on the budget and what we want to do on the revenue neutral rate, and if we need to have a discussion on salary increases. I think there's no question.
The discussion that we'll have on the 18th in the R&R is just a
So we have to give notice by the 20th.
Right, but we have to set what it's gonna be.
not in the notice.
But then there's still,
You have to plug a number in there.
right. So,
Do you need something before the maybe?
He's looking at yours.
we- I mean, if we wanted to do something on like, you know, like the 17th, if we felt like we,
R&R hearing prior or to in conjunction with budget hearing, publication of hearing must be done 10 days prior to R&R hearing, published in newspaper and website.
So on July 20th, it's the last day to notify the county clerk, and we have to provide our proposed tax rate and the hearing information.
Okay.
Right.
So we do have to have a rate in mind that
Yeah.
we're not going to exceed.
Give him 100. We'll come down from there.
You know, and so,
Because last year, there was an issue with the number that was put in, not because it was our fault, but there was an issue with the number that was published.
That was the year.
Was it
before.
last year or the year before? Well, whatever, we want to make sure we don't have that same problem. But we do have to have a number.
I think we need to have a extensive discussion on the 18th, if we're not planning on having a
Megan, do you think we can get it done the 18th, or do you want something before that?
it just depends. Regardless, will be able to have everything put into the spreadsheet and like all these numbers that we talked about. And
So, I guess you can give us, if you need us to have a special meeting before the commission meeting, give us a week notice.
how much do you think you guys are going to want to play with the numbers in that workbook?
I don't know.
Okay, so that, I mean, that's the question.
Well, we won't know until we see the numbers. I mean, because, you know, if we put in all these numbers and they come out, 120, well, you know, then we know we have to do a major cut, so,
If I get it to you, if I get the workbook to you by the, thinking more like the 12th. If I get that work done to you by the 12th, then you guys could decide how much time you think you're gonna need, and that would give us Thursday, Friday, and Monday if we had to have another meeting. Or
So-
you guys could decide to just have a long meeting Tuesday.
So we're closed the 3rd and 4th, and you're back in the office on the 5th, and you just want a week?
I'd like to give her at least a full 5 to 8 days. I mean, I'd like to get her through the next week.
So that only gives you one,
The
and
10th,
that
at
only
least.
leaves Monday if you want a special meeting.
Well,
I don't.
I mean, I'm speaking from anybody, but in my opinion, you over 90. Not my wheelhouse. So 80 to 90 is probably.
What, wait, 87 last time? Yeah, and we have a lot. And I understand that we don't want to raise taxes, but we have a lot of needs, not just wants. There's a lot of needs in there, and we don't want to get ourselves in the same boat that they, whoever they were, put us in this last 5 years of catching up.
I'd also like to, I don't know if it's feasible, but I'd also like to try and figure out, I'm trying to figure out in my head how to separate, like, you know, commercial and residential, but I'd like to figure out, like, what the impact would be, you know, per household approximately if we went here versus, you know what I mean? Which is gonna be really hard to do,
Go-
because, you know.
Get with the league, get with their infographics, and they will be happy to maybe potentially help you out.
That way, I mean, at least we would know what we would be, I mean, I know nobody wants to, like, you know, tax our residents crazy, but, you know, like, what's the difference between, you know, what's the difference between 90 and 95?
And
You know.
while you're going that route, if you're going to go that route, ask them to see if they can break down who all gets $1. Because the city will receive less amount of $1 of property tax than the county, state, or school
So
district.
which part of the dollar you get?
Right. Because, like, the school receives the most of $1. Absolutely, hands down. And then it gets, then who receives the remaining of that dollar from that is collected varies somewhat, but not too much. And the city is normally either the lowest or next lowest that receives for $1. So it'll be something else that we also can utilize for public education. So if you're going to go that route, I'd ask if you could also ask if they could pull some stuff like that.
So would we want to carve out another day for a
I would like to. I think it's going to make
Budget
it longer than
workshop?
meeting on the 18th.
Well, the other option, so we could do it either on the 17th or the 18th during the day.
Not. We're going to need to be able to discuss where we think we're at before the 18th. So it's got to be before the 18th. And I would prefer, my own personal opinion, not to do it the same day of the 18th.
Me too. I prefer that myself.
Because I might come back in on the 18th and have a different decision or change of heart on something.
So I am gone the 10th to 14th.
So it'll be Monday the 17th.
So we'd have to do something the 17th.
Monday, the only thing, it couldn't be in the evening, at least not here, because it's schoolwork.
We could meet downstairs, couldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it would still have to be a public workshop, but
The only thing now is that you guys are probably gonna want to utilize last week. If you want to see me, I mean, I can see it verbally, if you want to see me.
Yeah, we do want to see it. Could we do it? I have an appointment at 2 that Monday.
Can we do it on Saturday, the 15th?
No. Okay, what was the last date that you thought you could get it?
We could do the 4th.
14th?
Robin will not be here on the 14th. And if we're going to go over the final, and Benny will most likely be recovered enough that he'll be at it. It's just a matter of, we just need to give him that.
What about like a first thing in the morning on Monday?
That would work for me.
Fine with me, but,
I can make it work.
Like
As long as you can get everything to us. I would prefer if you could get it to us like the 13th, so I can have Friday and Saturday to maybe look over
I
it.
would like 7:30 or 8 on Monday.
do you have department head meetings?
We have a department head meeting at 8, but you can cancel that. It's not,
Or you can push it.
I mean, yeah, 7:30 or 8 would be great. I think I'm gonna.
Of course, department heads might want to be there as we're starting to slash things.
Well, I think they're gonna have to be I think they should be involved in cutting it anyway before it gets to us.
Yeah.
So, Megan, you guys don't have a clue what it was looking like?
No,
I know it's over 100,
yeah,
wouldn't you?
I would.
I would too.
It's,
So 8 o'clock on Monday the 17th.
Go 8 to noon, just for safety purposes.
Yep, as long as it's not that evening, because I'll be in Topeka Monday night getting my brain analyzed.
I can do that from here.
I don't think it'll be a conflict for Commissioner Castleberry, but I could be wrong. I could be speaking out of turn for him. So,
Okay.
you have to wait till later. He's in recovery.
Okay, I will have it to you Friday at the latest.
Thank you.
Friday or Thursday.
Thank you, Megan. Okay.
Eric, comments?
I've said it through every department's budget. I don't think we need to be paying mileage. There should be an available car for our employees so that our insurances covers it and not have to worry about their own personal cars. I'm still going to continue to advocate for the 5% COLA. I know it's not what some others may want to hear, but that's what I will advocate for. Other than that, I won't really have very many more comments until I see the rest of the whole workbook.
Same way, I mean, I know we have news and stuff and things, but sometimes we have to wait for a couple of years to get a project done.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not comfortable in pushing over that. I mean, you just start putting people in the pocket like that. So, let's keep doing that. And where the numbers fall, that's where it is. But, that's all I have. Anybody else have anything?
Well, we can just adjourn this whenever. Thank you.